And now, Podtendo presents Sidequest Cinema.
Hey guys, welcome to the Podtendo podcast, where we talk about movies on a video game podcast. Don't ask why.
Yes, I believe at some point we were next to a campfire.
The sparkling campfires here in October here in Podtendo land. Welcome. We talk about movies, and that makes sense, of course. Oh yes, of course.
Of course.
Awesome. So, welcome. Hopefully you guys are ready. It's this best time of the year. It's fall, favorite season. Kind of reminds me of like all neighborhoods just look like Halloween. So I'm excited for watching Michael Myers walk around. Good times. Scary spooky month. Love it.
Yeah, it's a good one. Definitely one of my more favorite. I've grown to love summer more, but fall's up there. It's nice because then it's not too hot. But also can get hot.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah. Yeah, like even just yesterday was cold. You know, in the morning, your hands are cold walking the dog, and by the afternoon, my little sweater had to come off for a t-shirt because it was too hot to be outside. So it's good. Good dichotomy, as they say. I guess I'm Mick, and I'm joined by my co-host
Tyson.
We're Podtendo. We're talking about Alien today, and fall, and scary stuff. Ooh, so normally we've always done like scary games in the past, and for some reason, I don't know why. I think because Alien 3 video game, which might be our Halloween show this year, has been on like this like ongoing list that we've had for 8 years, and we decided let's just get rid of it now, right?
Yeah, and it's ties in well with kind of the season, and we're like, why not watch Aliens? These movies are awesome, so we're talking about Aliens.
Yeah, they're pretty solid.
It'll be fun.
It's pretty solid. Yeah, so there you go. So like Jason alluded to, this week, Alien. And then you get Aliens in 2 weeks. And then on Halloween, you get to listen to us talk about Alien 3, the video game, which probably is better than the movie. So it's kind of a treat for us.
Yeah. And I think it's one of, like, I don't know, I guess it's kind of, to me, one of the best Alien games. I mean, there's Alien vs. Predator games, and those are really good. But this is like this is Aliens in an Alien 3 wrapper. And it works wonders.
Yeah, so. Perfect. But before we get to that, though, we got to talk about some scary movies. Also, guess what? We don't have to play any video games if we talk about movies all month. So maybe a smart move by us, because I just couldn't play Castlevania #2. I knew that was coming. Legacy of Darkness. That's what Tyson wanted to play this one so bad. He's like, man, I missed out on last year. Better play it this year. You can be a werewolf.
Yep.
So.
Yep. With some smooth controls.
Oh, I couldn't wait so much that I was like, no, we can't do that. So Alien. Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up into your Nostromo space seats with your space seat belts. Everything's just called space and space. It's hilarious. For Alien. It was released May 25th, 1979. The runtime had 116 minutes. Box office, the budget of this film was $11 million. The box office, $184.7 million in return. Wow, amazing. It was directed by Ridley Scott, produced by Gordon Carroll, David Giller, and Walter Hill. And the cast included Tom Skerritt, who's clearly the main actor because he's a man. Sigourney Weaver, Veronica Cartwright, Harry Dean Stanton, John Hurt, Ian Holmes, and Yaphet Kotto.
Pretty awesome cast when you kind of like look back at it.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, no, it works. It's solid. It's there. You know, you probably recognize Yaphet Kotto from that James Bond movie that he was in. Live and Let Die. Live and Let Die.
He has the most hilarious death of any villain in that he gets blown up into a giant balloon.
Okay.
And his skin blows up, like he physically blows up into a giant balloon. It's
cool.
The most ridiculous thing.
Well, they can't all be serious. They can't all be as serious as that one where Denise Richards is a nuclear physicist. That's a
Yes,
serious. That's pretty serious stuff.
That's real stuff. When she's saying those lines, it's definitely not like she just memorized a bunch of lines.
Oh boy,
Definitely.
it isn't. So now, I think with these ones we just get into the development details. Then we talk about the movie, and then maybe at the end we do like our Wayback Machine. So it's a little different from other shows, people, but it's just better. It's just better if we get right into the movie right off the start. You know you want it. Let's just talk about the movie. So, being the 500th podcast that covers this, we're gonna get some like not half-assed development details here, guys. Like, I'm pretty excited. I put a lot of work into copying this Wikipedia page. So development details of this fun movie. While studying cinema at the University of South California, Dan O'Bannon made a science fiction comedy film, Dark Star, with director John Carpenter and concept artist Rod Cobb, with production being in the late 1970s. The film featured an alien created by spray painting a beach ball and adding rubber claws, which was played for the comic effects. The experience left O'Bannon really wanting to do an alien that looked real. A couple of years, I don't know why it's in quotation marks, later, he began working on a similar story that would focus more on horror. I knew I wanted to do a scary movie on a spaceship with a small number of astronauts, he later recalled. Dark Star was a horror movie instead of a comedy. Okay. O'Bannon worked on a failed Dune movie where he met H.R. Geiger. He found Geiger's work disturbing. His paintings had a profound effect on me. I have never seen anything that was quite as horrible at the time and as beautiful as his work. So I ended up writing a script about Geiger's monster. They offered the script to many studios, pitching it as Jaws in space. The success of Star Wars gave the Fox the courage to back this property. The cast call summarized the role in this film as truckers in space. Everybody aboard the Nostromo is a normal, everyday working Joe, just like the rest of us. They just happen to live and work in the future. For scenes showing the exterior of the Nostromo, a 58-foot or an 18-meter landing leg was constructed to give them a sense of the ship's size. Scott was not convinced that it would look large enough, so he had his two young sons and the son of the film's cinematographer stand in for the regular actors, wearing small spacesuits to make the set pieces seem larger. Scott had wanted the alien to bite off Ripley's head and then make a final entry log in her voice. But the producers vetoed the idea because they believed an alien should die at the end of the film. Editing and post-production work on Aliens took roughly 20 weeks to complete, concluding in late January of 1979.
Yep. Pretty
Any of those
fascinating.
boring points?
I had to see how all this kind of came to be.
Yeah.
And it really is just like Dark Star remade.
Oh, really?
A little bit.
Okay. Yeah, I've never seen that, but that's interesting.
Yeah.
H.I. Geiger's work, obviously, if you go back and look at any of that, I know he had there was a video game series called like Dark Side or something that was similar, had a lot of H.R. Geiger kind of inspired little monsters. They'll just basically look like the xenomorphs, right? And then, like, realistically, the fact that Jaws came out and Star Wars right before this movie kind of makes sense, because really it is just Jaws and Star Wars.
Yeah.
Right.
With a mix of little Dark Star in there, and boom, you get aliens.
Yeah, and then obviously there's lots of there was lots more technical things, right? Like you can go back and there's tons of making ofs, and I think there's different cuts. There's actually a director's cut of this movie, which is shorter than the theatrical cut.
I could believe that.
I
feel like
I think Scott just kind of went through and just like cleaned it up and cut and added some extra scenes to make everything move a little faster.
Yeah. Usually director's cuts are a bit longer, but sometimes it's just like things can get sped up.
Yeah.
Especially at the beginning of this movie.
Yeah, it is a little slow. But there you go. Yeah. So that's kind of our half-assed internet stuff. The stuff that if you listen to an Alien podcast, you need to talk about. You need to talk about the landing gear and them being kids. The giant set design.
I didn't even actually know about the whole kids thing.
Oh, really?
But that makes sense because it's like they really do try to set the scale of everything. So.
Oh, yeah. There's this giant ship that they're trying to create, right? I think they even used them when they're walking through like the space jockey. I think those are also supposed to be the kids as well. So just the scope of everything just seems so much bigger.
Yeah. And then we get let down in the cover. what's that stupid movie I've forgotten about? Prometheus.
Prometheus. I feel like Prometheus is actually okay.
Is it?
Yeah, it's. I think
maybe we need to find out one day.
Yeah, maybe.
But we'll save that. We'll save that
Maybe
conversation
one
for
day.
another day.
All right, so now that we know what the development details of this movie and how it came to be, let's look at our specific first memories and inject some of our own personality rather than me just reading notes. So, kind of fun. What did I write down here? Toys! Scary ass toys. I don't know if we saw this movie or the sequel first, but I feel like we had the toys and we begged mom and dad to watch it. So they rented it. It was a Sunday afternoon. We ate spaghetti. I remember this and I was like, man, this is great. The house had that nice warm feel, right? You know, it was kind of like a cold September day, maybe sometime in the fall. Just went back to school, but the house was nice and hot because the oven had been running. Maybe mom had baked bread or something. It was good. We started the film and I basically made it to the coolant scene where the guy's like running his face under the water before the alien, and then my pants at that point became full of spaghetti poop. I was so scared. So I spent the rest of the movie playing the Super Nintendo in the bedroom. So, and I think based on the fact that I think we only had a Super Nintendo, I think this is like pre-96, so I was like 8 or 9. Yeah, that seems...
Okay, yeah, because I do not remember watching this movie for the first time.
Okay.
Just kind of always remember have seen it.
Yeah, you saw parts, right? Like you watched, like
Yeah.
I definitely, so I saw it, sat through the beginning, and I see the face hugger, and I watched the chest burster scene, and then as the alien comes down and kills the guy, I'm like, nope, 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 nope. So obviously in the future, I think I'd be braver. We watched, I think it was on the Space Channel. But I also feel like I watched Aliens first fully, and I was like, oh, that wasn't so bad. And then going back to this one, I was like, oh, that was like kind of better and scary, but like it's like good. So that's kind of my timeline with this movie. So good old 8-year-olds watching Alien.
Fair enough. I don't really have like first memory, like I said. I just kind of remember always it existing in my ether. Like I remember the toys.
Yep.
Don't remember getting the toys. Remember watching Aliens.
Okay.
Because we had our own sort of headcanon with all the characters because we had all the toys.
Oh yeah, Apone was awesome. He had this like yellow shirt, and then
Yep.
and then he just gets burnt horribly in the next one. And you're like, all right, cool.
Rough.
Actually,
Yep.
so I might have watched Aliens already. I got some questions for that one. Because they're like, man, this lady's stupid. She's seen an alien. And then they're like, oh, what's our mission? Are we going to go kill a bunch of bugs? And I'm like, well, there's space bugs everywhere, but we think aliens are fucking... Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. That whole part is kind of just hand waved away because it's like...
And then...
So what are bugs that you guys are hunting?
And then there's something... Okay, so when we...
Is there space roaches?
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's. I'm like, I don't know. It seems so...
Or have these guys actually encountered xenomorphs before, and they were like, "Oh, it's just a bug hunt. It's just hunting xenomorphs.
Yeah.
It's usually pretty easy. We can handle this." And then all shit goes wrong because the one dude is just completely incompetent.
Yeah, okay. Let's just tell the whole plot of the next movie. No, we're doing Alien. There's only one alien. Nothing else exists. So you don't know anything. So that's our first memories. So Tyson doesn't remember, but I think also Space Channel. I definitively remember watching Paul Reiser die on like the Space Channel on like a Saturday night. So,
Oh yeah, we definitely saw the TV cut about this a couple times.
So yeah, it must have been like it just was one of those things that's shown all the time. And eventually, I'm like, okay, I can watch this, and I was like, oh, okay, that's not bad. All right, so now that you guys just so we get you guys in the know, we've seen it. That's our first memories. We watched it again for this review. What about our terrible plot summary? So a crew of space truckers wake up from hypersleep to check on a distress signal. In one of the biggest plot holes in movie history, a scientist touches someone or something on an alien planet and gets a face hugger on their face. Pfft, what an idiot. We should definitely criticize that director because that's so stupid. They take him back to the ship. He wakes up, bursts an alien, and sends the remaining crew on a hunt. The alien kills a few crew. Ripley discovers the company knew about the alien, is assaulted by an android before blowing the ship up. Ripley has to survive one last encounter with the alien before she can return home and everything will be all right.
Yeah. It's and Ripley's the only person trying to follow protocol.
Yeah.
It's like when he comes back to the ship and he's like, this guy's got face huggered. It's like, well, you're staying in quarantine because all three of you have been exposed. So stay outside.
And when you know the plot twist of the movie, though, like there's so many different layers too, right? Like it makes sense that Dallas, right, wants to get back on the ship. Of course, he's scared. Of course, he wants to get back on the ship, right? And like Ash wants him on the ship because, well, he wants the alien on the ship, right? Like it kind of, it's funny because like you can watch it in just full effect, like, oh, they're just being good company people, but then you're like, oh shit, he's actually being like a dirty company person, right? So the layers of this movie is it's pretty good.
Yeah. And I guess should we get into the meat of this review?
For sure, let's do that. So then, now that we know what it looks like, we can go review. What is our favorite part? So we're gonna start with a big positive. Favorite part of the movie. So I'll start here. I'll steal Tyson's answer. The atmosphere. The movie's slow tone helps build the tension organically. It just seems really well lived in. You understand that these crew are real people. They have real conversations. You know, like you get one little blurb at the beginning being like, the Nostromo, crew of 6, returning ore to Earth, 10 months trip or something. That's it. That's all you need to know. And the next thing they're like, hey, we want more money. That's a realistic thing. Not like, I can't wait to go see my wife in Kansas tomorrow. That's what I love being about a space trucker is after 10 months on the road, seeing my wife and kids. Oh, okay, cool. No, it's perfect. It's just great. Tyson, what's your favorite part of this movie?
Well, I like that you just predicted my answer. Yes, it was the atmosphere.
Woo!
Very well done.
All right, good.
It's so good. Like and you think of the small budget that they had for this, like just even the like kind of dust on the alien planet or whatever, like them bouncing and having just like the dust kick up, like they had to create a device that when you stepped on the soles, it kicked out dust. That's how they did it. It was built into the shoe, and you're like, oh man, this game, like they were playing such an elaborate like shoestring, like walk the line between what works and what doesn't like work, because some of these things, like if one of these things starts falling apart, it all kind of starts tumbling, but it just works so well. Like the sound, and
what you're seeing is like Ridley Scott's just kind of like genius when it comes to filmmaking, right? And like the fact that he would worry about those little details, right? And he analyzed, and he was like, who else is gonna be like, oh, we need to build a giant landing gear and then make children stand beside it so it seems even bigger. Like, who else would think of that?
Yeah,
right?
No idea.
Like, if I was making it, I would just have a crappy cardboard ship that they step out of. I'm like, wow, what a crazy alien planet that doesn't look like Northern California, and then just move on with my day and not care anymore.
Or you just don't show it.
Yeah.
Like, in the days before CGI, it was just, you just don't show it. Yeah. Just imply it or whatever.
Exactly.
But he was going that next level, like, oh, let's try to really make this work. And honestly, it is held together by the seams, and it works. But it works.
Oh, yeah.
It's a pretty flawless movie, but it's so tight. Like, they have walked in such a fine margins line of, like, if this thing, like, doesn't, if you can't sell the alien in some of these scenes, it's like, it's all, like, this movie starts becoming a goofy alien movie, but it keeps serious and keeps the threat throughout the entire movie.
And like, I'm sure you've heard this, and I hope most of our audience have, but like this movie just essentially is a haunted house in space, right? So it's, what if there was a ghost in the house? You can't get out of the house. Usually the door's locked. This one is, well, because there's space outside. You can't go outside. You're stuck, right? So it builds that really well, and like it's done well. And the fact that they show less, right? Like, this is one of those things where I don't understand that this movie exists, and oh boy, 44 years later, this movie tension still works. It's still great. You know why? Because they don't show shit. Any movie nowadays, like, imagine if this was made nowadays. Like, you'd see the alien, there'd be 50 of them, they'd be jumping, front flipping, there'd be one drinking a Pepsi for some reason. And I'm like, just because you can't, like, every film student almost that wants to make a horror movie should watch this and be like, you don't need to show shit. Like, you don't need money on special effects to show nothing. People are terrified of nothing. Idiots.
Yeah. And, like, yes, they had the alien on set, but some of the scenes that they cut, like, he's goofy. Like, he, like, crab walks out of the room. You know, like, because you had a big guy in a rubber suit that could barely move. It's like, but if you, and when you think about the one scene where he just kind of jumps out and flows his arms out, it's like, it is kind of like, he is a rubber monster.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
He's not scary.
That's part of the reason why. Yeah, exactly. Part of the reason they shot him like so sparingly is because he looks so stupid.
Yeah, and like, but that's just a limit that they had to work around, and it totally works. It's totally believable. You don't fall. There's no like drop of like, oh well, I'm out of it. And that's a problem with like modern movies. It's like with the CGI. It's like as soon as you sniff the CGI, you kind of just like relax and you're like, okay, I'm not worried about like not interested in what's happening. But when there's an actual person on screen that you feel like is in immediate danger from anywhere and everything is kind of unknown and foreign, it's like it really is just like they pull off that atmosphere of a horror movie perfectly. And
atmosphere, I knew it. That's so funny. Good. All right, so then our second category is most notable scene or part of the movie. So maybe you haven't seen Aliens for a while, you know, you see it and you know it, but like you don't know the beats. You want to talk about it with someone. What's the one thing you're going to kind of like bring up, right? So is it the slow opening title scroll, the crew waking up, landing on the LV, whatever the planet name is, 42 something, exploring the ship, seeing the space jockey, the face hugger exam/hunt, the acid blood scene, the chest burster, the cooling tank attack, the exhaust vent scene, ash attack / when he's like ahead, the self-destruct scene, or maybe the final slow confrontation in the escape pod. Of those scenes, I think that's what I'm going to try and do. I'm doing with that category is I'm trying to like everything that stands out and there's like a cool scene to talk about. So of all those cool scenes, what's the thing that you want to talk about the most?
I think it's the like chest burster scene.
Yes.
Like that is the scene.
Yes.
From this movie.
Yes.
But like all those other scenes you listed are very like iconic. And I mean, I throw some shade at this movie sometimes for having a 2-minute opening scroll.
Oh yeah, no, it's like, but that's my criticism is this movie's fucking slow as balls.
Yeah.
Like there's sometimes I'm just like, I love this movie, but I just can't. You know, like I just, oh my gosh, I just can't anymore. Please no, please stop.
Yeah, you have to kind of be in the right mood for it. But when you are in this movie, that chest burster scene and the whole like acid blood scene, them just like analyzing the alien and just like the repercussions of them chasing the acid drops.
Oh yeah. That's I think those are the two best scenes: chest burster and like acid blood scene, right? Because you're like, oh my god, it's eating through the hull, and you're like, fuck, they can't even kill this thing, right? Like it's just an absolute monster. It's a nightmare. It's fast. It's strong. It's, you know, like they can't find it. If they shoot it, it's gonna just kill them all. Like it's just, yeah, it's done incredibly well, right? So of those two scenes, those are definitely the most iconic than stand up, and I mean those are the ones you see like parodied all the time too, right? So usually if something gets parodied a lot, that's kind of why. Yeah,
it's usually the most iconic thing from the movie that everybody remembers.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's the Matrix and bullet time.
There you go. So that now that we know kind of what our favorite part is, we love the atmosphere. Can't say. Usually we soliloquize a little bit more. This chest burster scene is just done really well. You know, like there is some. Apparently there is some reports that the cast didn't know what was going to happen. So like their take that they get is actually kind of that's a lie. I'm pretty sure everyone knew what was going to happen. They saw the prop. The only difference was I think they were like shocked about how much blood got squirted on them. Basically, it was the blood getting squirted on them, and like, so it's not like it was like, okay guys, come over here. Like everyone read the script. They're all like, oh, hey everybody, we're having a special scene next to this guy who's got an alien inside of him. Yeah, we're just, oh okay, what's gonna happen? Oh, no, I had no idea. Just react. Yeah, it's like, no, of course there's a script. Everybody read the fucking script. Yeah. So that probably should be debunked. That's kind of one of those like weird rumors that goes around, which I heard a lot of people talk about. So I listened to a couple podcasts like leading up to this because I watched it maybe a week or two, and I like to watch a show, do your research, and like listen to some other people, get some other takes, and like a lot of people were saying like, oh, that was all like a first take, and like no, I'm pretty sure that's been debunked. So yeah, well, it's definitely not like they were shocked by what was going to happen. It was just like. They were spooked by how much blood there was. They didn't realize it was going to go everywhere. And then the only other part I think of all of these that we didn't really talk about was the exhaust vent scene. So where Dallas, who we assume is kind of the main character, right? Tom Skerritt, he's the most well-known actor. He's the male. He's the lead. He's the captain, right? And he's getting chased, and all we have is him crawling around these dark tunnels. And Veronica Cartwright's character kind of providing commentary and trying to get him out of there, and there's a beeping sound. It's terrifying. One of the better jump scares, right? Yes, it's like, get out of there. It's like, where? Turns around, there he is. And you're like, of course. Yeah, no, that was very iconic. And parody also with The Simpsons. So
Yep. Very good.
that's how you know it's good. So maybe that is the other. So there's like those are like the three kind of notable scenes, right? So
Yeah.
Any other ones that you need to touch on?
I also just kind of like the alien planet, like that whole part where they're like landed and they're on like, and they discover all the eggs.
Oh yeah.
And they like break the mist, and that's what like causes them to open. It's like very cool.
Yeah. Well, and
So.
I mean, whereas I'd probably be leaving if he saw the eggs. I think the role of Kane is supposed to be he's an explorer, right? He's like, oh, what is this? And that's why he goes towards it, right? So.
And that's kind of like a literal an actual representation of the point of no return.
Yeah.
It's the breaking the mist.
Yeah.
And it's like he's going for it. If you just turn back.
Uh-huh.
But
yeah, it's good. You know, of course they shouldn't have done there, but then there'd be no movie. So, but we want a movie, so they had to go there. All right, what's about our least favorites? We have to have 2 criticisms here before we can end with our praise. So, our least favorite part of the movie. Least.
I'll go with one.
Okay.
I my least favorite part of this movie is I know it too well.
Okay.
I wish I could just not remember all the twists and everything, because I feel like because I know everything and I know all the how this movie goes, I've seen it hundreds of times. I own the darn thing like physically and digitally. It's one of my go-to movie or like road trip movies or whatever. But it's just I've seen it so many times where I know all the twists, I know all the beats. I wish I could just get back. Just go erase my memory of Aliens and just go back and rewatch it for that first time. And I'm like, I think, because I'd love to just get that back. That's my criticism, is I've watched this movie too much, so it's kind of just it's lost a little bit of its luster with me.
That's cool. That's cool you say that, because one of the shows I was listening to, he said his dad went, when it was in theaters, and they knew nothing. So all there was a trailer, and it's lots of quick shots and that. Yeah. I'll put it at the beginning of this, right? It's basically how every thriller's trailers cut now, right? It's like a modern way of doing trailers. So he knew nothing. And he said one of the most terrified experiences ever was watching that movie for the first time in a theater. Like, could you imagine that? Going to the theater and you're like, oh, Alien. Wonder what that's about. What if it's like that Star Wars movie? That was fun. Yeah, like, you'd be like, oh my, why? Terrifying.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the same reason why, people look to The Exorcist, because it's imagine being in the frickin' theater when that movie drops.
Yeah.
That would be just something else. Like, if I ever get time traveling powers, I'm just going back to watch movies in theaters when they first released.
That's fair. Cool. For myself, my least favorite part, Veronica Cartwright's performance of Lambert's. She kind of just yells a lot. She's kind of annoying. And apparently she was first cast as Ripley, but then Sigourney Weaver, when she showed up, she just absolutely crushed her audition. So they gave her the role, and they kept her on as Lambert. So she showed up in London expecting to be Ripley, was putting on Lambert's clothes, and she's like, oh, kind of a one-tone performance. She goes, oh my God, a lot. Yeah, not the best. But I mean, I guess my least favorite part is she didn't become Ripley.
Yeah, well, in a lot of the scenes, she's kind of has to act terrified from fright.
Yeah.
Because I forget what scene is it where she's just kind of standing there while somebody's just getting murdered. And then I think Yaphet Kotto literally has to run in.
That's the Ash part when she's being attacked by Ash. Also, that's a plot twist we never talked about. Ash, Bilbo Baggins is a freaking evil robot, and then he's got milk inside him. Seems weird.
Yeah, and they didn't seem to know that he is an android.
Yeah.
They just assumed he was another member of the crew, but obviously the company that they were working for, which we also didn't talk about, there's a giant computer, the Ash attacking Ripley scene, which is kind of a stand-in for almost a rape scene.
I mean, the whole movie is an allegory for rape and
yeah. But it always made me extremely uncomfortable watching that scene. And he's just the milk, choosing the milk as the blood, was just gross.
Yeah.
But again, it's a white liquid, so it's it's pretty disturbing. And I think that's this movie. I have a hard time criticizing it because it just works so well. But she, like, Veronica Cartwright does do nothing in a lot of scenes, and I think you just get drawn to it. You're like, everything else is so tight, but you're kind of a loose.
Yeah.
You're like a loose bolt here that's rattling. You're not off, but
yeah, and it like kind of works.
rattling.
But like, yeah, like damsel in distress, she wasn't given much. It shows, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and that's why I guess we can get into our other criticism.
So final criticism. We'll say something negative, and then we'll be positive after this. Here we go. Look, I just love this movie so much, it's hard for me to be negative. You just said that. The set, the sound design, the way the story is told, how the characters are believably interact with one another. I have to say something. I guess it's a bit long, right? Like the theatrical cut versus the director's cut, which is a little bit cleaner, adds some extra scenes, just like moves faster. I don't know if it needed to be 116 minutes. Like you could probably get it closer to 100, right? There's just a lot of air sometimes,
slow beats,
yeah,
like them waking up.
Like I think the chest burster is the halfway point of the movie, so you could probably like speed up the beginning.
Yes,
right.
And yeah, you could. Hey, that opening's 2 minutes right there.
Yeah.
That could be 10 seconds. Just saying, does not need to be 2 minutes.
Yeah. So yourself, a final criticism?
Yeah, I guess it's like you said, there's so much to praise about this movie, and the script's super tight. And I think you're right. Like all the characters do interact with one another very believably. Well, they're just kind of overtalk one another, and they like the chemistry's really tight knit. We're just not told much about these characters, and I get it's because they were kind of trying to keep them vague, like they weren't even gendered in the script or whatever, and then they ended up kind of like, as they were casting people, kind of figuring it out, which is a really incredible way of making a movie, because you just write a script how people would interact with one another and how people would talk. But you also just don't get a lot of backstory, but I don't think this movie needs that.
Oh yeah, no, definitely not.
It's just it's just one of those things where like this thing's really held together by the edit. If you're giving them an extra like 10 minutes of like film time, I don't know if like this movie is tight. I'm just happy the way it is. Just don't touch it, because everybody was hitting it out of the park that day. Even the rougher stuff is still pretty good. So
yeah,
it's hard. It really is hard to criticize, but I guess my criticism is it's so like you can see where the margin is. Like that's how close they cut it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Awesome. And then finally, praise before we are done with this one. This scary, scary film. Praise. Sigourney Weaver. She's a real badass through the film. She's very believable. It's kind of like, apparently this is her second movie role or something like that. She beat out Meryl Streep. I think that was one of the other actresses up for this role. It was Meryl Streep. So good job, Sigourney.
Yeah. She's pretty incredible. I mean, everybody got to see Sigourney Weaver being a badass, and she saves the cat. Major props. Love Jonesy.
Yeah, but like also, wouldn't you say fuck the cat?
Yeah, in the real world, you'd say fuck the cat, but she's our movie hero, so she's extra good.
Perfect.
Like
good.
She's the one trying to follow procedure, being like, "You suckers are contaminated. You're staying outside," and is arguing the rational person, the logical person, and I love that in a movie, we actually get to see the person who is the most logical and reasonable, and you can root for. That's our hero, and you're like, what a refreshing change. Like, what a nice thing where it's like, oh, our hero doesn't have to be broken or damaged or whatever. It's like we can actually just watch people go through.
A competent person suffer some adversity and thrive. You're like, oh, cool.
Yeah, and it's like, and because they're competent and they survive. It's like, oh, what a novel concept.
Yeah. So. Awesome. Yeah, no, that's good. And like, she is just like from this, she would go on to hit Ghostbusters, right? And then by the time Aliens opened, in the 80s, I think that must be 86 or something like that, it came out, then she's the leading lady. She was one of the only leading ladies that's ever opened an action movie, right? It was her, and then Angelina Jolie, Mila Jovovich, right, have kind of taken the title since then. But really since then, there's a very small handful of women that could open an action film that people take seriously, right? And Sigourney was the first, and quality-wise, she probably has the best filmography. No offense for anyone who did 12 Resident Evil movies, but I don't know if they're very good.
Yeah. And I don't know. She's got a lot of charisma. You root for her. She delivers her lines very authoritatively. And I think that she always commands the scene when she's in it, but she doesn't have to like overact or anything. She just kind of exists and is like, wow, what a badass.
Yeah.
And I think even by the fourth one, it was kind of like, hey, if you guys want me back for this piece of crap, you got to pay me.
Oh, I think she made more for Alien Resurrection than this film cost to make.
Yeah, and I could see that. But good for her getting paid finally for doing all the hard work. Because she's the one running around like in her underwear, fighting aliens. So get this lady paid.
Yeah, no, very good, very good. Awesome job, Sigourney Weaver. And yeah, just one of those. Again, why aren't there better female characters? They work. People believe them, but no, it's just not.
Yeah, I just think it's because we just don't make good movies anymore.
Yeah, that's probably a good point too.
Surrounded by like what happened to movies like this? Where like seriously, why don't we get movies where the competent person just like survives? Yeah. It's always like, oh, either the competent person's a punchline, and this dill hole's the fucking hero, and like let's make a movie around that.
Yeah,
like, that's been done a million times. Like the sad thing is like. This older style, it just like doesn't exist anymore, and to go back to it would be refreshing, even though it's old. So I don't know.
That's fair. Cool, awesome. So that ends our review of this film. I just got a couple tertiary things to finish up here, and then we are out. Anything before we walk away from the review that you're like, oh, I have to say that about this movie, or I'll never be able to sleep again?
No, I think we hit it all. Mentioned Jonesy. We mentioned like Chestburster. Mentioned the atmosphere.
Android. Android Milk Blood. Like everything that's good.
Yeah, Sigourney Weaver.
That was scary.
Yaphet Kotto.
Still kind of scary. Okay, awesome. Sweet.
Yep.
All right.
And the Alien Planet. Yeah. No. Oh, I think we just didn't mention the Xenomorph. Cool design, but goofy costume and obviously limited. But cool design, and obviously that's the reason why this franchise is so badass, because the alien was really cool.
We're even talking about that in cultural significance at the end of the show, so pretty exciting. Finally, before we get to that, though, we have to do a Wayback Machine. Before that, though, we're doing an Are You Buying It? So this is where I come up with a fan theory. This one, and I think I talk about that later. There is no correct version or origin of the Xenomorph. These creatures include kind of a wide genus of organisms that can just kind of adapt, survive, and thrive in almost any environment. They boil down. That's why you see each iteration a little bit different, right? Sometimes they come from eggs. Sometimes they come from a cow. Sometimes they come from a pod. Sometimes they come from a squid-like creature. We're not sure, but they're similar to crabs. Apparently, a lot of creatures in the world just evolved into crabs because crabs are like this like extremely elite evolutionary design. They're like very simple, and they just have such a high survivability that apparently if you evolve into a crab, you live longer. So lots of the crabs aren't related. They're just like, well, that's what some creatures just became, was just crabs. That's kind of weird, right?
That is weird, but I could see it because, I mean, they are very hardy. They're bottom feeders. They can live off kind of anything, and they got hard shell. And anything that comes near them that they can snip, they'll just snip away. Interesting. If you ever do that, there's some cool YouTube videos about just like, did you know that everything just became a crab? And like thousands of creatures just became crabs. So we just call them all crabs. And we just think they're the same thing, but apparently they're very unique and diverse. So very cool.
Yeah. Similar to probably maybe the Xenomorph, and I'm like, I guess I could buy that. I guess maybe that makes sense why some of the versions, like why Covenant and Prometheus, these films, and Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection, they all just kind of like, they seem just random. That's probably why.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's also creators going back to works and trying to rework an idea instead of just...
Yeah.
Sometimes you just don't need to explain stuff.
Yeah, but sometimes you need that sick bankroll. So it's tough to avoid. Now,
it's true.
Now we're done with that.
Made a lot of money.
There you go. So we got crabs on the brain. Let's go into our Wayback Machine. One of our first ever, probably the first one was Star Wars. This is one of the earliest ones. I don't know if we've done a movie before that? Yeah, it's probably Star Wars in this. So chronologically, this is our second episode ever, because we're going back to May 25th, 1979. The top TV shows of 1979 were Dallas, MASH, Alice, That's Incredible, Three's Company, and 60 Minutes. This year, for cartoons, we saw The New Adventures of Scooby-Doo, Scooby-Doo and Scrappy-Doo. So even in the 70s, they were seeing multiple releases of Scooby-Doo's a year.
Jeez, this is peak Scooby-Doo, but that makes sense. The 70s is kind of like Hanna-Barbera, but they're being like, well, nothing else worked. We tried the same thing, but throwing a ghost and a shark on it.
And apparently there's something like 18 different versions of Scooby-Doo over the years. Like, they just like reboot it into like single season shows quite often. Oh, something weird.
Yeah, and they were doing a weird thing where like they were rebooting it every year, but then sometimes it was every 6 months.
Yeah.
So there was like,
well, that's clearly this one.
Scooby-Doo and Scrappy-Doo.
Is different, but then like next year you get the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo, which is different, but it does have Scrappy-Doo. So also
before that, I think there's like Scooby-Doo and the Scooby-Doo Superstar Hour or something like that. It's like a mess. Right. It's a mess.
So we also saw Spider-Woman and the Super Globetrotters. That would round out your cartoon hours. All right. Top movies. So nothing else came out in May of 1979 of note. Last month we saw Mad Max and Dawn of the Dead. All right.
Okay.
And then next month we get Rocky 2 and Moonraker.
Sick. Yeah, this is Star Wars is on the brain.
Yeah.
James Bond is ripping off Star Wars, so it's like Star Wars fever right now.
There you go. Top video games released in 1979 were Galaxian, Asteroids, Lunar Lander, and Sheriff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I don't have my thing queued up. Yeah, maybe we just don't play music. Yeah, we're short on time this month, so no music. There you go. Maybe in the video game. Top 3 songs are La Freak by Chick. The number 2 song is Bad Girls by Donna Summers. And the number 1 song is My Sharona by The Knack.
Oh, My Sharona.
Yeah.
That's all you're going to get.
Yeah, perfect. Sweet. So that is our Wayback Machine. So now you're like, so if you were alive back then, and you remember stuff coming out. Remember when Alien came out, and then next month you saw Rocky 2 and Moonraker? That was a weird couple months.
Yeah. I mean, I really like Moonraker, and I really like Rocky 2. I really like Alien. So this, like, hey, it's not bad.
It's
but
not
then I look at those video games, and I'm just like, oh right, this is.
Yeah.
It's not even. We're so far.
You'd be playing Devil Worship like D&D with some friends in a basement somewhere. So
basically.
But then you'd also be a Satanist. So is it worth it?
Yeah, probably get wrapped up into some otherworldly things and attacked by flying imps.
Sure.
I don't know what they are.
Sure. Okay, cool. Finally, we'll end with a cultural significance. So in this section, we look at game design, the lore, inspirations, turning points, interesting stories, talk about how this game relates, or movie. I didn't do everything, game or movie. Give other examples and tie it all back together in the end. So we have 3 shows here, folks. We can talk about. What are we going to talk about for 3 shows? How about we talk about Perfect Organisms this week in reference to the Xenomorph. Next week, the next episode, we look at best movie sequels. And then we finish off with something scary. And I think I made a note that sounds ambiguous enough that I don't need to commit to one specific gimmick. Cool. Great. There we go. So Perfect Organisms, best sequels, and then something scary. So as mentioned in this movie, the Xenomorph is referred to as the perfect organism. So let's see what it brings to the table here. So they're strong, they're fast, they have a thick outer layer that protects them, they have acid blood, and they spawn their offsprings off their victims. What more could you ask for?
Wow. I guess, yeah. I guess maybe reproducing asexually, but I don't know how the aliens do it. So maybe it's asexually, but no, they have to attack eggs. Somebody. Yeah, plant eggs and things.
Okay,
but
I was looking up perfect organisms. It was actually very difficult to find anything concrete on this. I assumed there'd be a giant list of perfect organisms. No, not that many. So I had to kind of come up with that list. And while doing some research, though, I did find this guy who was saying, you know what? I don't think Xenomorphs be a big problem. We're like, on the movies are always like, we'll be fucked if they come to Earth. Will we? So they seem formidable. However, doing some research, I found someone who was trying to debate and debug that a Xenomorph invasion of Earth would be a big deal. Let's see what points he had. He had 4 whole points. So they can only spawn 1 Xenomorph per host. And the host needs to be living. So here's his math. Even if they kidnapped 50% of our soldiers, the remaining soldiers would only ever have to kill 0.5 xenomorphs to break even.
Okay.
But I just don't think that math is right.
No, I think he's just throwing numbers out there. That's 78% of stats are made up, Mick. Don't you know that?
Yeah, okay, all right. So maybe the failure of the American education system at work here. I think if they kidnapped 50% of our soldiers, the soldiers would have to kill one xenomorph each to break even.
Yes.
Because that's how math works. Because if we had like 1 million, that means we have 500,000 soldiers versus 500. Yeah, you'd have to, if you just killed half a xenomorph each, there'd still be 250,000 xenomorphs.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know if we're going to count, that's aliens theory, like lore, alien lore. If you go into deleted scenes, they actually capture us and turn us into eggs.
It's true. Yeah. Okay.
So theoretically, they can choose whatever they want, and it's not just soldiers that they can kidnap. They can kidnap anything. They can kidnap like dogs,
that's
cats.
True. Yeah,
like,
it would be
any mammal.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't need to be people. That's why there's different varieties. So
well, let's see what point 2. Let's see if that maybe helps. They have no long ranged attack. What would they do against a helicopter, Tyson?
They can leap.
Okay.
So as long as it stays at a certain height, for sure, but helicopters can't stay airborne forever.
Yeah, okay, I guess. All right.
They do have to refuel. So
okay, how about point 3 then? What would they do against a tank?
Get on top of it, and then one of them just sacrifices itself and uses acid's blood to go through the tank.
Okay.
Like they're pretty smart. They figure shit out quick.
Okay. All right.
They did that in Alien Resurrection. They just
I think they did it with like a pod or something. Okay. And then number 4. What do these things even eat?
Anything.
So that was his 4 points that clearly defined that in his mind, if a xenomorph invasion of Earth happened, not big deal. No BD, NBD.
Well, you know what? I'd like to live in this guy's world where it's like these 4 things are the 4 things holding up society. And I'm like, helicopters, tanks, and soldiers would only have to kill 0.5 of a xenomorph, which we, doing proper math, realize it's actually 1. Yeah.
Cool.
And then what do these things even eat? I'm assuming they could do whatever they want and eat whatever they want. Seems got a lot of mouths.
Okay. Cool.
Could eat fleshy things.
All right, so we're not that convinced by this. That's good. All right, good. Well, sorry you couldn't convince us. I should have wrote your name down. You could have been part of our show. Could have reached out. But no, we just made fun of you anonymously because we're cowards. And finally, Tyson, you get to do a whole thing. We learned about xenomorphs, made fun of some kid on the internet. Now we get to play a game. We're going to do the perfect battle royale. Oh boy, we got 8 brackets here, eight teams going up against each other. We're going to find out who is the most perfect. All right, okay. So we're going to start with number 1. Obviously, home court advantage has to be the perfect organism known as the xenomorph. Now, who's he going up against? Well, according to Gamer.com, these are the top 10 close to perfect video games that exist. So, from the countdown 10 to 1, we have Ocarina of Time. So it's a play-in. So you have to decide which of these games is the most perfect. And then they play the xenomorph. So Ocarina of Time, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2, Grand Theft Auto 4, Soul Calibur, I'm not sure which one, Super Mario Galaxy, GTA 5, Breath of the Wild, Perfect Dark. Yeah, Perfect Dark's pretty good. Metroid Prime and Mario Odyssey. So those are the close to perfect video games. So of those video games, who's winning this play-in?
Oh, I had to choose the video game. And you put Ocarina of Time in this? Come on, man.
That was the number 1 rated.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I can choose Ocarina of Time to go up against the Xenomorph.
Yes.
I'm gonna choose Ocarina of Time.
Ocarina of Time up against the Xenomorph in the perfect battle. Who wins?
Yes. Well, I was kind of thinking I'd go if I have to choose a character from each of these franchises, I would choose Metroid Prime.
Yeah.
And then I would go with a Metroid.
Okay.
And I'm like, then I have a Metroid against a Xenomorph. And I'm like, that's a fun little mashup. But because the Metroid are the perfect organism in their universe.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I'm going to take Ocarina of Time. That's not fair. But just, asterisks. Everybody knows I'd choose Ocarina of Time to go on to probably win this thing. But let's go Metroid. Metroid versus Xenomorph.
That's a much better category. Wow, Tyson's doing a good job at this.
So I'm thinking, I kind of want to give it to the Metroid.
Okay.
But I'm going to take Xenomorph as like a whole chunk of them.
Okay.
Like a Xenomorph colony.
Okay.
Like a bunch of the eggs. And I'm going to say like a bunch of them, or like a queen kind of coordinating things, could manage a single Metroid. So I'm going to edge it that way. I'm going to kind of throw a bunch of asterisks all over the place, but I'll give it to Xenomorph. But that was my little fun little headcanon that came up for that one.
Okay. No, I like that. That's good. Yeah, you're right. And Perfect Dark. I'm looking at this. That should have been its own game. It's called Perfect Dark. Dumb. Okay. Now, let's going to see who the Xenomorph plays in round 2. So who's more perfect? Was it the 1972 Miami Dolphins, who had a 14-0 season and won the Super Bowl, or the 2007 New England Patriots, who had a 16-0 season but lost in the Super Bowl?
Well, see, I like to add playoffs.
Okay.
To the category. So I think the Miami Dolphins played 2 extra games.
Yeah, so they had a perfect 16-0.
16-0, and the New England Patriots played
19-1.
I want to say 19-1,
or maybe 18-1.
Yeah, I think it's 18-1
because
there was one extra.
They definitely
game.
would have had a bye.
Yes. So I think actually no, it wouldn't be 17-1 because it's only 2 extra games. Anyway, it doesn't matter what it is. They have one loss. The 1972 Miami Dolphins don't.
No loss.
They won the Super Bowl.
All right. Good.
It's 72.
Good job, 1972 Miami Dolphins. Excellent. You're playing the Xenomorph in the next round. Good luck. Now, how about the next matching we have is the 2-7 matchup. So we have Perfect Cell from Dragon Ball Z fighting WWE's very own Mr. Perfect. So who would win in the matchup there?
Ooh, Mr. Perfect is pretty good.
He can throw. You ever seen a guy throw a 60-yard touchdown catch to himself?
Never.
Well, Mr. Perfect can do it.
Yeah, he can. And he can basically score from... If he would have got a contract in the NBA, he would own all the scoring records, because that guy doesn't even have to look at the basket and he just goes in.
Yep.
However, Perfect Cell is pretty formidable. So even if Mr. Perfect is, let's say, as strong as Hercule or Mr. Satan, or where the heck his name is.
Oh, yeah.
He just thwomps him.
Yeah.
I got to give to Perfect Cell here. He's too OP.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that. So, okay, good job, Perfect Cell. Now, who are you going up against? Now, we have a little bit of a change here, because I know something changed. So we have a play-in at the number 6 seed, and we have to find out who wins that before we find out who plays the 3rd seed. So we have a play-in between bowling a perfect game, so scoring 300 in a bowling game, versus pitching a perfect game in baseball. So you must face 27 batters and not allow a single hit through 9 innings. There have been 7 perfect games in the 2020s, so most notably Carlos Rodon and Corey Kluber. So what is more perfect, a perfect game in baseball or a perfect game in bowling?
I kind of got to give it to baseball here. Okay. It literally takes, because you're facing somebody. Bowling is just like repetitive motion, making sure it's perfect every single time.
Okay.
The floor is not going to be playing against you. There's not some other guy trying to like play defense. In baseball, you literally have professional hitters who are trying to ruin your chances, and it just takes one of those jerks.
Yeah.
One of those jerks to connect.
Okay. All right. So perfect game in
perfect
baseball.
game in baseball.
All right.
Yeah.
So that as a 6 seed moves on in the tournament, and they have to play the movie series Pitch Perfect, which I'm always surprised that it's not about baseball, but it's about singing. It's a bunch of cute girls singing. Makes you feel good. Your girlfriend loves you for watching Pitch Perfect, and you love Anna Kendricks because she's kind of a babe. So, of those two, what's better, a perfect game in baseball or the movie Pitch Perfect?
Ugh, yuck. I am not a singy, songy, musical kind of person in any form of the sense, So I'm gonna go with just stick on baseball.
Okay. All right.
But I'm sure Pitch Perfect is a fine
it's not
movie series.
It's really not that offensive. So, all right. So now we've got as a 6 seed moving on, Perfect Baseball playing Mr. Perfect Cell in the next round because he probably absorbed Mr. Perfect. Going up against the winner of this matchup. So number 1 seed Xenomorph versus the number 4 seed, the 1972 Miami Dolphins. So who's more perfect?
The 72 Miami Dolphins versus Perfect Cell.
Versus Xenomorph.
Versus Xenomorph. Oh, okay. It's tough because I mean that's like 64. What? How many people on a football team? Like 64?
52.
52.
Yeah, but if
plus practice.
But even if they only took like the defense, the offensemen will only have to kill 0.5 xenomorph to win. So.
It's true.
And only that, but like, what do the xenomorphs even eat?
It's true. And what would they do against a tank? Yeah,
what would they do? What if the guy was nicknamed Tank on the team? What would you do about him? That guy's a tank. Idea. Well, I guess we can't stop him. Fuck.
100%.
Oh, they got a blimp? How are we supposed to do with the blimp? Oh, we have no long range attacks.
I'm just gonna say xenomorphs.
Okay.
Because it's not going to be a fair fight. Yeah. They're going to be like, hey, let's hang out in the locker room. And then when they're all showering, we'll just murder them.
Yeah, that's a good point. He does like killing people in the shower.
Yeah, it's like, hey, you're most vulnerable. You're using the washroom. Haha, sucker. I'm in here too.
Smart.
It's like, that's so typical of a stupid xenomorph.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So good job, xenomorph. Who are they going to play? Are they going to play pitching a perfect game in baseball or Perfect Cell?
Ooh, I think Perfect Cell would be able to pitch a perfect game.
Yeah, he'd probably throw the ball really hard.
Yeah, and I just don't think anyone could hit like a 200-mile-an-hour pitch.
Oh, like if that, like he'd kill the bat. Like you'd need how many pitches is that? 27 times 3. Yeah, like you would kill so many catchers.
Yeah, okay. Essentially.
Cool.
You'd probably need. I think at some point the umpire would be dead too.
I guess you just get out of the way and you just throw it into the backboard. So okay, awesome. So good job, Perfect Cell. So that means we have a 1-2 matchup. Oh man, it's the top of the charts. Here we go. Xenomorph versus Perfect Cell. Who's gonna win? Who's the downfall of our society? Cell doesn't even have a tank. How is he gonna stop the xenomorphs?
But he only has to kill 0.5 of xenomorph.
Oh yeah, that's right. So he's fine.
So he's fine. And what about helicopters?
Perfect.
This would be fun. I think this would be mutual assured destruction because Perfect Cell is going to absorb the xenomorph, but the xenomorph's acid blood's going to hurt Cell from the inside out.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think it's going to be a mutually assured destruction. And it only takes one xenomorph for this to happen. I'm going to say there's going to be multiple. So the xenomorphs win because I'm saying xenomorphs, and Perfect Cell doesn't know what he's chewing because he's too used to eating us delicious people apparently.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay.
So
nice, excellent, good job.
And I always ends up 1-2, and then I always end up choosing number 2. So I'm like, no, xenomorphs winning this. It's alien. Let's enjoy this.
Perfect. So the perfect organism beat Cell. Suck it, Cell.
Yeah. Nice. Who beat Mr. Perfect? So it's Mr. Perfect Cell.
Mr. Perfect Cell, who also probably absorbed every pitcher. Well, I guess he could just do it. I guess he didn't it was just the concept he could do. Okay, sweet. So that wraps up our first scary show. Oh boy, I'm terrified. I watched Aliens already at least once. I might watch it again because it's good. Good pacing.
It is. Yeah. It is. And I think it's one of those movies where when you're giving out candy just to have on in the background, that's perfect background noise.
Excellent. Perfect. What a perfect episode. Awesome. So that wraps up this episode. Hopefully you guys are enjoying your scary, spooky months. We'll be back in a couple weeks, maybe with some more chat about what else we're viewing, watching. Go from there?
Absolutely.
Cool. All right. With that, bye, guys.
See you.